Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, where we're asking the question, what's brewing in Montpelier? And joining me today in studio is Lauren Parker from the North Branch Café. Welcome.
Hi, Pat. Thank you.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you. Same here.
I'm sure I've seen you around, but...
we're both traveling in the same footsteps.
Exactly. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. So my husband and I opened North Branch Café and North Branch Tech Services in 2013. We decided to share the space that was once the Capitol Copy. Mm-hmm. And so I had the part of it on the river. He had the part of it next to what was Asiana House, and he had the basement. So he had about a third of the space, and I had 2/3. We decided to do this well into our nearing retirement, thinking we want to do something else besides our business. I had been in healthcare, and he had been working for various IT places. And Montpelier was the perfect place for us to do it. We've lived here since 1989. Although I did have a branch of my business in Montpelier, most of my days were spent outside of Montpelier, supporting different medical offices and hospital groups throughout the region. So I didn't really have a direct connection with downtown Montpelier, and felt that having a tea shop, which was my life dream, was to own a tea shop and have no woes, no stress, no worries, because it's tea. As we found that wasn't the case.
As a customer, I find it so relaxing in there.
Yeah.
And your staff is, I know tea this much.
Yeah.
And they talk to you and they suggest teas, and it's a wonderful place to hide.
I have to say that we almost always have had the best staff imaginable.
bet.
And our group right now is incredible. They love tea, they love people, they love the cafe, very loyal to our goals.
That's great.
And it's really nice.
I think we've almost answered the question, what makes your business so special?
Yeah.
But what do you think makes it stand out? And I even feel comfortable going in by myself.
Well, it's interesting because when we got there, it was gutted. The space was gutted. So we had to come up with our own design of how it was to be laid out. And my daughter's an artist, and she is the one who I give credit for making it feel incredibly cozy and comfortable, feeling more of a home atmosphere than, and the fact that we're quiet and peaceful, and yet you can also have some rowdy conversations, which we do have, people do have.
Yeah, I've had a few meetings in there, sitting in the back, and I'm sure we've gotten a little loud.
And that's what it's about. That room especially can be loud or quiet, whatever you need it to be.
That's great.
Yeah. So what I think is special besides the atmosphere, which I'm really, really proud of, is that when we opened, we wanted to have really good food at a price that anybody could afford. So our food is all local where possible, organic if it's available, and really good. Yeah. My kids both have celiac, so I probably shouldn't say that. So having good desserts, sweets that are gluten-free were really important, because I know that it's a problem around everywhere, that it's hard to find good gluten-free desserts. So we do have a fair selection of gluten-free, vegan, special needs eating kind of things. And we work with local bakers. We have 4 local sweets bakers, and then we work with 2-3 savory bakers. And we've started making some of our own. We have a kitchen, a prep area, so we have started making things like we do flatbread sandwiches, and we make wraps, and we do different things.
It's expanded. It sounds like, hasn't it?
It has.
That's
lots of different things. We after COVID, we switched from being mostly finger food to being things that people could take home, because it was mostly a takeout environment. Right. So we started making spring rolls and sushi, vegetarian sushi, no fish, and then we added, just lots of things that didn't exist anywhere else. Whatever we could make in our space that didn't exist already in town, we would figure out how to do it. Our menu is eclectic. It is all over the place. It's not, what kind of place is this? It's, look around, see. You'll find something that
whatever you want it to be.
Whatever day of the week you come in, you might have something different.
You mentioned COVID, of course, and one of the reasons that we're having businesses come on the show is we're back because we've been through hell and back, I think, in most cases. You had COVID, you had were you impacted by both floods?
Yeah,
Were you?
three floods, yeah.
Oh, three?
Three floods,
oh,
yeah.
Well, please tell us what
So-
happened and how'd you get back on your feet?
So I wouldn't say we're on our feet. I would say we have an ongoing GoFundMe because on weeks that we have good customers, foot traffic,
Yep.
we're okay. But there are many weeks since last January that have been very difficult. So we are just trying to figure out how to keep going, how to
Wow.
keep making it go. Because I love the place, feel like it has a real place in our community. Our customers, our local customers are unbelievable. Our
Yep.
travelers are unbelievable. So we just feel that there is a need for us to be there. So we have to figure out how to do it. You know, the biggest issue is staffing. We have this wonderful staff.
Yeah.
But if there's no revenue,
Yeah.
like
you can't-
on Halloween,
Yeah.
we didn't earn as much as we paid in payroll
Oh,
that
wow.
day. So it didn't cover food, didn't cover rent, didn't cover electric. So you can't have many days like that.
So obviously the crowd is still not back.
No.
No.
In no way. I mean, I think I spoke to City Council about this because, our downtown was designed for a population of 20,000 on Monday through Friday. And I don't know the numbers, but I can't imagine it's more than 3,000 at this point.
Oh, that's terrible.
There's literally nobody at the State House
Yep.
or any of the state office buildings. There are some businesses that are back hybrid 2 days a week, maybe. But the foot traffic on State Street and Main Street is scary to me. It isn't to everybody. Not everybody. I would say most businesses feel it, but some have a larger online presence, or they have, just a regular clientele
Right.
that just comes to them no matter what. When you're in food services, it's very, unpredictable because you never really know who's coming, but you have to be staffed for the most.
Well,
and-
we've got to get these folks back.
Yeah.
Because there's so much happening in Montpelier, and your place is just so special.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
I appreciate that.
What about the support that you've gotten, I think, from the community? I know this is Montpelier Alive's 25th anniversary,
Yeah.
which I think I watch Katie Trouts and what she does. I mean, they work so hard to keep that momentum going.
It's
and
amazing.
Montpelier has won so many awards for downtown.
Yeah.
We've got to get back to that.
Yeah, and this is what many of us are afraid of, is that we've lost a couple businesses already, with a couple more talking about closing. And I myself could close at any time just because there's only so much that you can manage. I don't expect to, but it's possible.
Right.
Like if every day turned out to be a bad day, then we would not have staff.
Do you feel you've gotten the support you should have gotten from the state, from the feds? I know
Yeah.
FEMA's gotten some bad reports of late.
Well, FEMA doesn't help businesses. So that was a surprise for all of us at the flood, because when the flood first happened, everybody was saying, including, Bernie, and everybody was saying, FEMA's coming, we're going to help you. So it works for residences and for municipalities, and for businesses, not at all.
And that's the SBA, right?
Then it's the SBA, but most of us still have loans from COVID. So taking on another loan is a commitment.
Yep.
And you have to feel like you can pay off the first one, let alone
Sure.
the second.
Right.
So I think that, for us with the flood, you recognize, the stairs, you have to go up three stairs to get
right.
into our space.
Right.
That saved us during the flood
Right.
because we didn't have to gut our first floor.
Now, you said your husband was in the basement, or had
He
the
had
basement?
he had left in January, and they were up on 2 Spring Street. They also flooded and had to move out of their space. But for us, we lost all of our refrigeration. So we lost 7 refrigerators and freezers. We lost all of our furniture, all of our backup furniture, backup equipment. Lots of things that we thought, this will be okay in water. But what we weren't counting on was polluted water. And once the oil and gas and sewage got involved in the water, you had to get rid of everything. So literally everything that we had in our basement was thrown out.
And they've asked you to put things up higher, but do you have space there? I'm thinking about it in my head. There's not much space to put big furnaces and other things.
There's nowhere to put anything
Yeah.
in the cafe. So, we'd have to suspend things from the ceiling in order to get any kind, and that would not work. Obviously,
attractive.
that's not going to work. So what our plan is when we replaced our refrigeration units. We
Right.
bought them in a footprint that we could get them up the stairs. Because the first flood, the refrigeration units couldn't make it up the stairs. The only way we could get them out of the basement was to send them out the back basement entrance that we came in, but then they would have to be out in the parking lot, in which case they would have all ended up in the river.
Wow.
So we just left them in the basement. You could watch the video of them banging into things. They knocked all of our electric, and they knocked down, they floated around, We had plenty of time with that flood to get things, as much as we thought we could get upstairs.
Right.
The cafe was packed with boxes and
bet.
everything. My office space is also down there. So, but what we do now is we know exactly what we need to do, unless it's a horrific flood, like the December flood last year and the July flood this year. Both of them, we got about 6 to 9 inches in our basement again. So you have to go through the whole cleanup again, but we had raised everything and taken things upstairs.
My long-term concern is always mold, and I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, no, we've got that under control.
You've got that under control.
Yeah, we did, the first time around, we learned what we needed to do for that, so we've been very, very good about.
And were you able to get enough workers? I know a lot of people that needed their floors replaced, they had to wait a long time because
service people.
Yeah, they were backed up.
I am so fortunate. We have a man who does all of our work for us. I talked to my landlord, Jesse Jacobs, and I said, you've got all these buildings that you have to worry about. I've got this guy.
Yeah.
Can I just have him do the work, and then I'll just reduce it from my rent? Because we didn't actually close for the flood of 23.
Really?
I mean, for a couple of days, we were totally closed while cleaning. But because we didn't lose anything on our main floor, operations floor, we could continue to do everything that we had been doing. So we were providing food and iced tea for people that were working in town. We were just walking around with pitchers of iced tea, pouring them drinks.
Good for
There
you.
was no business, obviously. And I think that the hardest part for us, we did lose. So you asked a question about do we feel fair compensation? We felt disappointed by the state coming through with what they came through. We expected it to be more than it was, and I don't know what their parameters were. It took so long to get it. I filed it 7 times, and
Really?
I don't think I would have done it again. I was so frustrated. So we ended up getting, I think it was $5,000, and nowhere near nowhere near. Even in our case, which is, we had much less damage than like a restaurant like Positive Pie was in the hundreds of thousands. But even for us, that felt. It felt not great.
Yeah.
We got more from Montpelier
It doesn't
Alive.
sound it to me, and I'm not involved like you are.
Yeah,
but
it was disappointing to say the least. So I don't think that went as well as we thought it would. And the governor said, and I like the governor, don't get me wrong, but he said, this is just a start. There'll be more. We know it's not enough. And nothing else came until this year, in which case everybody was denied if they'd gotten it before. So this feels a little disappointing.
A lot of discussion needs to happen with the legislature.
It feels
when they
disappointing.
Come back.
Yeah, they said maybe in January there'll be something.
So what can we do to help you?
Yeah, well, from our perspective, what we need is more people in town. Montpelier is a great city. It is. There's so much vitality. People come from all over, and because we get people when they're on their relaxing time. And what we hear from them is how much they love Montpelier. They come back because the first time they came, they thought, oh, it's the capital, let's go here. But now they come back regularly on their way from Boston to Montreal. They always stop and they say, it's because we love this city. There's a lot to do here. There's a nice variety of shops. There's a great variety of restaurants. And it's a beautiful town. So we need more people.
Good.
And I know Montpelier Alive is really working on that. That's what I wanted to respond to your statement about them too, because we would have been lost without Montpelier Alive, starting with COVID and all the way through the floods. If we hadn't had Montpelier Alive,
and they have so many wonderful things planned for the holiday season.
Yes.
And going forward, a lot of energy in that.
A lot of energy.
I think it's Katie and one other.
And Carolyn.
They make me tired just talking to them, but they're fabulous.
They are really
They really
great.
are.
They are really
so,
great.
well, we hope this message gets out.
Yeah.
And
people, please come.
Yeah,
and bring your friends from from the towns around. Like we have so many great customers who. They know that we need this, but people can't come every day into your shop.
But it's a great place to just get away.
It is a great
space. You go sit in the
space.
back in a nice big comfy chair and have a cup of tea. Seriously,
that is what I'm most proud of about the space. Is it's great for small groups, for individuals, for larger groups. When we first opened, we were 99% women because of the tea and the wine.
Right.
And then over time, like I would say now, we're 50% men because
great.
men realize, oh, this is it. Maybe it feels a little bit, mellow, but it's a very nice place to have a
Maybe you need
meeting.
that by about 2 in the afternoon. Mellow sounds good. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us
thank you for
tonight.
doing this.
And Lauren will hope people to listen and buy local, folks.
Yeah,
Come on
buy
down.
local.
Thank
Buy
you
local,
very
come
much
to
for coming
Montpelier.
on.
Thank you, Pat. I
We'll see you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, and we'll be right back. Hi there, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, where we're asking the question, what's brewing in Montpelier? And joining me in studio today is Brian Lewis, who is the owner of Filibuster's Restaurant and Yellow Mustard. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. So I just found out today that you own Yellow Mustard, and I went with a friend, and it's fabulous. So you've got 2 great places going here in town.
Yeah, they're both on State Street, almost across the street from each other. And Yellow Mustard's been around for 3 years.
Oh,
this
shame
December.
on me.
Yeah. And I've owned it for 2. And Filibuster was supposed to start July 23.
Yeah, good timing.
Yeah, we were started. Our scheduled start was supposed to be 10 days after the flood, but we got flooded, and it pushed the opening back 7 months.
Now you're up a little bit in the Filibusters, and it came up even higher than that, or was it just your basement? Or
So it came. Our basement is like a prep kitchen, a dry storage, 2 bathrooms, and a seating area. And so it came up to 4 inches from the first floor.
Oh,
So it was
still pretty high.
Yeah, there's about 12 feet of ceiling.
Yeah.
So it was about 12 feet deep in the basement.
That is a beautiful facility.
Yeah.
And you've done such a great job with the inside.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
It's great. So give us a little bit of history about you and your background and why Montpelier and why 2 restaurants?
Yeah. A little about me. I've been in the restaurant industry since my very early 20s. I started out in Seattle. I trained there for 9 years. I was in Los Angeles for 6 years. And then I grew up in Connecticut, went out to the West Coast. I came back east in my early 30s, so about 15 years ago now. I was working in Providence for 3 years as an executive chef, and I just really wanted to get to a place that had like more space available. I had been in the cities for about 18 years at that point, and I enjoyed coming to Vermont when I was living in Connecticut and coming up and skiing, and so I thought I'd come up to Vermont, and that was 8 years ago.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, that building is wonderful. It used to be a bank.
Yep.
But first, before you was a Chinese or?
Yeah, it was a sushi.
A sushi, right?
Yeah.
And they kept a lot of the bank features, the big vault, and I was sitting next to the little shelves where you put the cash balance things, and it was just it's cool.
Yeah,
it's great.
It really is nice how they incorporated I guess it's where the deposit slips.
Yes, right. That's what I was trying to think.
Those tables.
Yeah, right.
So Jesse Jacobs actually designed it when it got redone.
Oh.
Yeah. And so all of the fixtures and the lights and everything that happened in there, that was all his idea.
That's great.
Everything that
happened. The mural is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That's something that we added.
It's beautiful.
When we took over the space.
I like the colors, the whole thing. It's just great.
Yeah, Erica McCormick did that. She's a local artist.
Nice.
She's really fantastic. But yeah, I think we've kind of nailed the style and the look that we were going for.
Yep.
And I think it matches our food very well.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about that before the show, and I said the word eclectic because I think you've breakfast, lunch, and now have you been open for dinner or you have been? For some reason, everybody said new breakfast place.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I have a good breakfast, I'm set for the day. I just love breakfast. That's my thing.
Yeah.
And I would go miles to go to a good breakfast place. And so people were telling me that's that your place is open for breakfast. But it's all different food. It's not food that you would get normally, I don't think, and it's all fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah, we started off just breakfast and lunch, and then the end of September we added dinner.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and we kind of changed up the menu a little bit. But yeah, I think we put out some really good quality food.
Yeah, you do.
And I would categorize it as like a new American cuisine.
Oh, okay.
Which is similar to the food I was cooking out in Seattle and LA.
Right. Did you go to a cooking institute or
No?
No, you just OJT.
I did, yep,
Good for
and I
you.
was very fortunate to work for some really well-known and established chefs.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. It must be in your blood then. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good. It's something you like.
It is.
obviously.
It is. When you love something, it
Yeah.
doesn't really feel like work.
That's
So,
great.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of good. So by the way, I don't know. I was going to write to you actually before we had this conversation. There was a waitress, and I wish I had known her. She was marvelous. And usually, if I really like somebody, I'll leave a note for the owner and say thank you. She was fabulous. So your staff, I was watching them, excellent.
Yeah.
Do you have trouble finding people these days? Because
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Workforces. It's everywhere, so it's not just Vermont.
It's not just Vermont. I hear it from friends across the country
Yeah.
that they're having similar issues. So, yeah, like having employees be happy and like enjoying their jobs is more important now than ever, I think.
Right.
And having that relationship with people is really important.
I agree with you. Well, you've got a good staff.
Yeah.
And it's a nice ambiance. I
Yeah.
like to eat in a place that's got just a nice feel to it. Somehow it makes the food taste even better.
It does.
Yeah.
It
So you can
does.
tell everybody about that dessert I had the other day. Is that something you have on the menu all the time, or it's?
It is.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
So the sticky toffee pudding is, we are a scratch kitchen. All of my establishments are a scratch kitchen. So we, the sticky toffee pudding is made in house. The ice cream that goes on it is made in house.
Ah.
And for breakfast and lunch, our breads and our English muffins those are all made in house
Oh,
as well.
seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, if you go, get that dessert, I'm telling you. I made so much noise going, oh my God, this is great. Everybody was listening to me.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites as well.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep.
And it even looks good. I mean, it's just good presentation.
Yeah.
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 So you have any plans for expanding or because you're pretty much, what else could you do? It's a fabulous place, but
I feel like we've kind of maximized the space at this
Yeah.
point. There is a really nice room downstairs that eventually I'd like to start doing some private parties.
oh, very nice.
It's a space that can fit 10 to 15 people,
Yeah.
and it's really, really beautiful.
Oh, nice.
And so I think that's really it. But now that we're doing breakfast, lunch, dinner, we open at 8 a.m. and we're closing at 9.
Yep.
We're there, and we're 7 days a week, which a lot of restaurants these days, it's hard to be open 7 days a week.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
Because you got just so many employees.
Just so many employees, yeah, and also it's it's almost beneficial sometimes to be able to close for a little bit, but I feel like having a place open 7 days a week allows somebody to know that anytime they think of it, they can just
You can go, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's great. And you have outside seating too, don't you? If I remember correctly, there's
Yeah.
a small outside seating.
Yeah, we have a really beautiful deck that comes off of the main dining room that is on State and Elm Street.
Yep, right.
And we have a bar top that runs along State Street, so you can sit up on a stool,
Nice.
and that can seat like 8 people. And then we have another 24 seats available
Perfect.
at tables as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's really a lovely facility. It's
Yeah.
great. So do you still do the cooking or
No.
not so much anymore?
No. So I have 4 places total, and so
Oh, you own other places?
I do. I own Parkway Diner in South Burlington,
Oh, no kidding.
and we just opened another Yellow Mustard in Burlington as well.
Yike,
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah,
Do you go around to all the different places every day?
every day. Yep.
Bless you.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow,
So I live in Facein, and depending on what my day is, I'll either start it in Montpelier and then head to Burlington, or I'll head out to Burlington and then end up in Montpelier.
Well, that explains that because I've called a couple of times. Is Brian there? Nope. I'm like, what? Why isn't he here?
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah. No, I kind of just oversee the operation, and I have really strong management in place at each location.
Right. Is your diner a real diner
Oh, yeah.
with diner food?
Oh, yeah.
I have to check that out. I love diners.
It's a Worcester dining car that was built in 1954, and it's right on Williston Road in South Burlington.
Oh, of course, I know where it is. I've been there years ago.
Yeah.
Not recently.
Yeah, well, you should check it out. We again, it's another scratch kitchen. Like all the biscuits, English muffins, breads, everything.
And you buy local as much as you can?
As much as we can.
Good.
Yeah, it's tough in the winter.
Yeah.
Summer's a lot easier with produce and like that kind of thing.
Right.
But specifically at Filibuster, like all of the beef and the pork that we're serving in our entrees, that's all brought in.
Yeah.
The chef also makes our own bacon that goes on our pub burger. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to have to frequent more often. Bacon's my thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good.
We've got a place in Berlin in our industrial center that takes bacon and forms it into bacon, the shape of bacon, and slices it all up and packages it for people. I took a tour there one time. It was fascinating watching it, but you can't go wrong with bacon. Bacon makes everything. That and cream makes everything taste good.
It's hard to mess it up.
Yeah, right, exactly. If you put bacon on it. Oh, that's really great. I have to check out your diner. How do you do all this? I mean, it must, something goes wrong in the restaurant business all the time. I know this.
Yeah.
Just things happen.
Yeah, it's a lot. It is. But I do enjoy it.
Oh.
And I think that's how I do it, is that I really do enjoy the work.
Well, I bet your employees like it, knowing that you've got all these places that you show up every day.
Yeah.
That's a good thing as a boss to have that kind of interest.
I think they do appreciate it. And I think they also know that there's like some stability within the corporation as well.
Right.
Because we do have multiple locations, and it just, like, I think what's really important to employees and staff these days is knowing that their job is secure.
Yeah, wow.
And that they're going to have a place to go. I mean, there's a lot of places that are like going out of business and having trouble, and so I'm pretty diversified, which I think is helpful.
Well, we've been trying to do these series because I learned, I was doing a radio show at one time, and somebody told me on the show that the last quarter of every year is the most important for any business, because January, February, March is pretty slow, and so you need that extra funding, extra dollars to get you through that first quarter of the year. And I thought about it, I thought, after all the things you all have been through, for you not necessarily COVID, but the rest of the businesses here have been hit with COVID and the floods, and some more than one. And it's like, how the heck do you do it? And
no, that's the question. I think Montpelier specifically is still recovering.
Right.
Very much.
Right.
And the hardest part for that is in 23, like everyone, like most small businesses in Vermont make all their money between June and October.
Right.
And they missed that.
Right.
Like we all missed it. Last summer.
I didn't even think of that.
We all missed June to October.
Yep.
And then people started to reopen in November. I got Yellow Mustard reopened in 2 weeks.
Wow. They must have gotten flooded out big time over there, didn't
Yellow
they?
Mustard was 4 feet up.
Wow.
But I did all the work in construction myself and worked 20 hours a day for 2 weeks straight.
Wow.
And with friends and other people volunteering, we got it done.
Yeah.
But yeah, the downtown of Montpelier missed their season last year. And then they went into the slow season. It was really slow this past winter. And then this summer was good, but I think that a lot of people were still staying away from Montpelier.
Yeah, and well, some of the businesses have said they haven't quite seen it pick up to where it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of that obviously has to do with the state employees not necessarily, they're not working from the offices anymore, so that's traffic that you're missing.
That's something that I think is definitely negatively affecting the entire downtown.
Well, I've heard it from just about everybody that that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, I would appreciate it.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
it doesn't,
I mean-
because it doesn't make sense, because not everybody's leaving a building that you can do something with.
Right.
It's just sporadic, it's scattered, so
Yeah.
it's not really organized.
That's something that I would like to say too. Like, it's not organized. It's just kind of like
Yeah, helter
hodgepodge, and no one's
Right.
really kind of taken control and been like, all right, well, we're going to consolidate and put everybody here,
Right.
and then we can do something with these buildings.
Right.
It's just kind of like, oh, we're just kind of going
Because
to
they
see
have
what
a lot
happens.
of rented buildings too, rented from private sector people too,
Yeah.
which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah.
So I just want to ask you before we leave, we only have a few minutes, where did the name I love the name Filibuster.
Yeah.
Because I know what it means to me when I heard it. What is it? It means to me I can sit there and blab over coffee for like forever, like a
Yeah.
filibuster.
Yeah. Honestly, I was showing a friend of mine the space, because I was like, this place is so awesome, you got to
Right.
come check it out.
Right.
And we were just kind of talking, and the next thing you know is he's like, Bri, like, you should call this place Filibuster.
That's great. Good for him.
And I was like, oh, that's like the perfect name.
Excellent.
Like when you hear something sometimes, it just like
Yeah.
rings true.
Well-
and that's what it was.
Well, it
So,
gave me the sense that I could just sit here and nobody's going to bug me if I
Yeah.
keep, because I obviously talk a lot. So I can talk over coffee for a very long time, and
Yeah.
that's what the restaurant meant to me when I heard Filibuster. I thought, oh, just sit and gabbing. That's
yeah,
good.
and I think people do that. It's
Yeah.
a very comfortable space.
Yep.
The booths are very comfortable. It's like you said, the atmosphere is really
Yeah,
great,
nice.
and so people tend to linger.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, Brian Lewis, thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate it,
Yeah,
Pat.
you're welcome. Thank you for tuning in. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, and we'll see you soon. Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, where we're asking the question, what's brewing in Montpelier? And joining me in studio is Julia Wilk, who is owner of Wheelhorse Web. Julia, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks for
so
having me.
Move quickly here. It's nice to meet you, and could you explain to our audience who you are and about Wheelhorse? I love the name, Wheelhorse Web.
Thank you. I'm Julia from Wheelhorse Web. We do WordPress maintenance mostly. We also build websites and support small businesses with their digital marketing.
Nice. And what did you say initially? A print?
No print.
No print.
Just websites.
Oh, just
and
websites.
digital marketing,
Oh,
like
okay.
social media, SEO, that kind of stuff.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So digital marketing, you help people market their goods and stuff, and
Sure, online.
great.
But yeah, with a real focus on tech support for WordPress and site maintenance and building new websites.
Oh my, how exciting! I know Zippo.
It's all good.
I think at my age, I'm very excited that I even have a website.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. you're
So
on your
I
way.
bet it's a talent that's in demand because people really need help with their websites.
Sure. Yeah, I find it to be pretty in demand. There, of course, are other people providing that service, but there's always like building a relationship, finding someone you like working with.
That's right. And you're here right in Montpelier. Where are
yes.
your offices?
So I've moved around a little bit recently, but I've been in Central Vermont for 10 years. Right now I'm in Barrie, but that is very recent. I was in an office on Court Street in Montpelier
Oh,
until
nice. Are you
about 2
planning
weeks
to
ago.
return at some point in time, or?
We'll see. I do a lot of business in Montpelier. I have a lot of clients here, but I think I'm going to be in Barrie, in my home office in Barrie
Oh, there you
for
go.
the foreseeable future. Hopefully not moving again, honestly.
Did you move because of the flood?
Yeah, so
Yeah. I'm sorry for that.
that's all good.
So many
yeah.
people have had to pick it up and.
Yeah, well, I was living in Plainfield, and I had a home office because most of what I do is remote, or then I visit clients on site, or go out to networking events and things like that. And then the building I was living in was washed away. I was in the Heartbreak Hotel, so it was overnight.
Oh, wow.
Everything was kind of gone, and then I've been in temporary housing in Montpelier. I had my office space in Montpelier, which was such a lovely thing to have for stability purposes.
Right.
But then I bought a house in Barrie, and I'm just finally
Settled
settling in
Good for
and
you.
feeling like that part of the recovery is
I'm actually
wrapping
surprised
up,
you found
hopefully.
a house. Because
Yeah.
that's the big talk in Montpelier anyway, is the lack of housing. So
Well,
that's good.
renting is also pretty challenging. So I was really lucky to know somebody who does property management and was able to
great.
get me into a temporary
great.
month-to-month spot while I was looking. But it was a challenge, the whole
So
thing.
where did you learn how to do websites and how to do marketing, and have you had a professional training on that?
I've done a lot of different training, but mostly on my own through
JT?
different online things.
Yeah.
I had some programming background. My parents were both programmers at different
Oh, isn't
points.
that cool?
So, yeah, so like when I was a teen, I definitely had a lot of support in learning a lot about computers.
That's
and
great.
did a lot of programming courses, not specific to WordPress. Honestly, that it's a kind of a different skill set, but it's just the ability to learn technical things was a big benefit. So I, just taught myself pretty much when I first started my business and built it up from there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm very impressed. I as I said, I'm thrilled that I even have a website and that I can use a computer,
Yeah.
because we didn't have those in my day. I even had a
Sure.
standard typewriter, if that dates me. But
A little bit. Yeah,
it's
a
like
little
yike.
bit.
But I know people, a website can make or break you.
Yeah.
And whenever any guests come on the show, I
Sure.
look to see what their website is, and I get a lot of questions and information by looking at the website. And you really have to be good at that, because
Yeah.
it can go badly quickly, I think, if it's not a website that you can easily transfer through and find information.
Yeah, it's really like a great sales tool and just like a way to build trust with people. And
Yeah.
I think for us, a lot of our clients too, we have a lot of folks that have business critical websites, like it's an e-commerce site, or they have registration, or they run events online, things like that. It's extra important to have, maintenance team on your
So when
side. for
a new
that.
client comes to you, do you sit and talk to them about what they envision a website would look like? I mean, how do you get the essence of the person and the products?
Sure, yeah. Well, there's a discovery process I go through. It kind of depends on where people are coming from. One thing that's a little bit different than some other people in my field maybe is that we do take on maintenance clients that are sites built by other people. We don't require people
Oh, I
to
see.
rebuild the whole site when they come and do maintenance with us, and we'll host them. But I mean, I just did this today, actually. So I have my sort of checklist of things I look for, because sometimes the site is super outdated and there's a little bit of work we have to do to bring it up to speed, to have it be easy to maintain and
Yeah.
work well. So,
I bet.
yeah.
And I
it
presume
depends.
you're trying to reflect the owner and the products, and reflect them in the best light.
Yeah, yeah, and when we build new sites, we work with a team actually, because we have graphic design and we have copywriting and photography. So kind of have my people that I love to work with, and then we have a process we follow where we do intake form, and we kind of ask a lot of questions about
great.
what their goals are and what their backstory is, and what they like
Nice.
all
Yeah,
the
right.
visioning.
Right.
What do you envision for
So
this
are
site?
these your employees, or do you contract out with these folks?
Not for the that kind of stuff. That's a partnership with professionals that have different specialties.
okay.
Because like I'm not a graphic designer, I wouldn't want to manage a graphic designer.
Right.
Carol and Matt that I work with has been a graphic
Great.
designer for many years.
Great.
I won't I won't talk about how many, but I do have two people that work remotely at my company, and especially in the flood, it was amazing to have a small
especially-
team, because
yeah.
oh my god,
And
I
if they were
wouldn't have-
able to work remotely, you're good.
right. The fact that it was like Sarah, who's my kind of right hand, she really took over for a little while, and because she just knows how we run, and it was
Right.
amazing. It would have been really hard without that, I think. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're sort of back where you were and moving along, and
Yeah,
Things
I'm
are getting
getting
better.
there. I'm getting there. Yeah.
it just was especially in Barrie, the mud that got in Barrie. You
Yes.
must have missed that, which at least in Montpelier was. No, I shouldn't say that. It was just as devastating because of the water.
Right.
But the cleanup,
Yeah.
the mud was ridiculous in Barrie. I
Yeah.
don't know how that all happened ecologically, that Barrie got mud and Montpelier got water. but-
Yeah, I don't know. I have kind of joked a few times that like at least I didn't have to clean up my
Exactly. Yeah. I helped somebody do that at their house in Barrie, and after about an hour, I said, "I'm too old for this."
Yeah.
It's like lifting cement. It was ridiculous.
It's hard. I did help with some cleanup the previous year, and
Yeah.
oh man, it's a lot.
Did you lose a lot of your equipment in the flood, or you were able to save it all?
A lot of my stuff is online. I
Oh,
mean, I had
okay.
to replace all my, like, most of my personal possessions, aside from my car and a few items. But I have my computer with me,
There you go.
so
Pick it
that
up
was
and
really
go.
helpful. But
Yeah.
also, most of it's in the cloud, so
Yeah.
really.
So talk to me a little bit about the marketing aspect of. I'm always very impressed with people and never quite understand that. I don't have that thought about where is the best place to market. How do you market to a specific area? How do you sell that product, and to what? Who's the client? How do you know all that?
Yeah.
How's that
Well,
for a
it
question?
really depends. I think if people are looking for a marketing strategy, which is
Right.
great to have like a document or a vision for how you're going to proceed with like what particular types of marketing you're going to do. That's again something I would collaborate with somebody else on, because that's a whole specialty in itself.
I would think.
But we do a lot of implementation, because a lot of parts of that are technical. Like somebody who's really good at messaging and branding and the vision of like how to leverage all these different platforms. That's a kind of a different skill than getting into the nitty gritty of like setting up a Google Ads campaign, or
right.
putting tags on your website to track things and then use that data. I mean, there's a lot of different skill sets
Yeah, it
within
sounds it.
marketing. So
Yeah.
we've mostly gotten that through experience. And for a lot of people, we can give really good recommendations for marketing, because we've just worked with so many businesses and seen things that work and seen things that don't work.
I love
and-
the branding
yeah.
when you mentioned branding, because I've been in some nonprofits on the
Mm-hmm.
board, and they go through this branding exercise. That is not so easy, but it's so
hard.
important.
Yeah, it is.
to
It
get
really
it
sets the
right.
tone for
Yeah.
even just your operations sometimes,
Right.
you know?
So you said you're not the only one that provides this service, but what makes you unique here in this area that people would be drawn to use your services?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, like I mentioned, sometimes it's just the relationship. Like, do we get along? Do we see eye to eye? Like, do you like the way that I work? And also, we often take over websites, whereas some other
Right.
providers would prefer you to kind of redesign so that they have built the site from the ground up and they
Right.
know exactly what it does. But I really enjoy the tech support aspect of it. I'm not a designer developer. I work with someone else for design, and we collaborate. So I don't have that same desire to be in the design part in the same way that some people do. Some people who design websites, they're really good at design, and that's their joy. And then they do the maintenance as kind of an afterthought. But the maintenance is kind of the more interesting part for me.
So I know this is going to let
Yeah.
you know how much I don't know. When you take over somebody's web, is it easy for you to get in, and once you become an administrator or whatever, to really sort through it and understand how it's built? How's that for a question?
Yeah. So this is partly why sometimes
Yeah.
people don't want. There's a little bit of a reverse engineering,
Yeah.
like investigative
But you can do that
kind of.
once you're in.
Once
the
you're in
web.
there, you can. But
Right.
sometimes it's not super. I mean, there's also budget concerns. So we don't want to spend hours and hours just trying to figure out what this one piece of code was for. Sometimes it's
I
like,
see.
does the site work without the code? Let's test. No, it
Right.
doesn't work. So we got to figure out how to replace that. But
Huh.
yeah, it's kind of fascinating to I get to see how all different kinds of other developers
Yeah.
thought to set things up, and I
Interesting.
have my opinions about what's best. I get to.
That's great.
But yeah, it's
So
cool.
you work mostly with smaller companies or small individuals. Ever helped candidates for an office?
That's a good question. I've talked to a few. I don't think that I have had any really as
Because
clients.
that's an open market when it comes time to run.
Sure.
I had run for the House and had a wonderful woman that I worked with. I don't even remember. Somebody said, "Oh, you should check with so and so, word of mouth."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people that specialize in
Yeah,
doing that
right.
specifically, and that could be a cool.
Because that's
niche,
all
but-
marketing and putting your
Yeah.
best foot forward and
Yeah,
stuff.
definitely.
So, interesting. Oh my goodness. So you don't have any problem finding people to help you. One of the discussions we've been having with the businesses is finding people to work for them. But this is
I know
such
that's
a
been-
unique, people
yeah.
are really, young people especially, are really interested in this field, are they not?
Well,
Used to be, anyway.
I mean, I would say I do have trouble sometimes. So, I mean, when the flood happened, I was still kind of in a transitional turnover moment with my team. Somebody was leaving, somebody was coming on, but that's kind of stabilized. So now
Good.
I'm feeling, we're in a good place now. But over the years, I've had a lot of people come and go, and getting the right skill set.
I bet.
People have to be able to be self-motivated and work from, because it's not an office where you sit there for 8 hours. So I have a lot of the same problems as other businesses, but I do have a bigger pool which is a blessing and a curse, because how do you narrow down like the whole world?
Well, that's good.
to the
That's a
right
good problem to
candidate?
have,
Yeah,
though.
well,
Because a lot of people, I remember my husband and I were camping in the summers, and one year, which was right before COVID, we noticed the restaurants were closing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
and that's right before us when it all started. That all of a sudden there wasn't the workforce anymore, and I'm like, what the
Yeah.
heck? So we moved back. We came back home, and same problem here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I thought it was just Maine's problem, but it's not. It's everywhere.
yeah.
I don't know where these people are, but there's some great
Yeah.
opportunities in this area. Central Vermont's a good place to work, I think.
Sure.
Don't you think it's got some dynamics to it? And
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say. I've never been a business owner, and I haven't looked for a job in Central Vermont in a long time.
wow.
So I don't have direct experience. But yeah, I mean, of course, if anyone listening is
Yep. Yeah, talk
interested
right
in
in that camera over there
in
and
doing
that.
tech support, in learning WordPress stuff, or if they already have some WordPress skills, I'm generally open.
good. And how do they reach you?
You can look at our website, wheelhorse-web.com, or you can email me at julia@wheelhorse-web.com.
That's great. And we just have about 9 seconds left. Can you somehow, in WordPress is what exactly?
WordPress is technically, it's a CMS, a content management system. Basically, it allows you to kind of have some parts of your website, like the header and the footer, that are on every page, and it helps you to organize content that you create, like blog posts, and dynamically display those on the page.
Now I know. Thank you. 'Cause
Yeah,
I wasn't sure,
sure
but I know
thing.
what you're talking about. That's great.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on. This is very exciting.
Well, thank you for having me.
What a great field you chose.
Thank you.
No, it's exciting.
I enjoy it. I enjoy
I
it.
really envy people, mostly younger than me, that can manage all that stuff. So thank you very much. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Banter and Beans, where we're asking the question, what's brewing in Montpelier? See ya.